video, I showed you the result. This video, I want to show you the system. Here's the exact 21-week plan that took me from just a regular runner to running my 252 marathoner. Most people think that a sub 3 marathon is reserved for, natural athletes, but I hit my 252.53 on my very first attempt because my training plan was specific with high mileage progression. And today I want to pull back the curtain on every single mile, every heart rate zone, and the strength routines that kept me injury free and ready for race day. Let's get into the blueprint. So I want to break it down into 4 training phases. Um, and this was a 21-week journey into 4 distinct phases to ensure I didn't burn out or peak too early. So phase 1 was a aerobic base, and this was weeks 1 through 8. This was about building capacity and routine. We started at 42 miles and built up to 61 miles per week. The goal here wasn't, to be blazing speed. It was strengthening that connective tissue so I could handle the intensity later. Phase 2 was about just building strength, and this was weeks 9 through 16. This is where the race specificity started. I focused on lactate thresholds and developing that 650 per mile marathon rhythm. I hit my absolute peak mileage here in week 14 at about 68 miles, which is blazing, and I never thought I could run that much in a week, but knocked it out. And then weeks 17 through 19, these were the toughest weeks, honestly, in my opinion. I worked on maintaining race pace while under heavy fatigue. Week 17 was a monstrous 65-mile block that served as the ultimate proof of fitness. And then the last phase was the taper, right? The taper phase, weeks 20 through 21. The final 2 weeks were just about recovery and maintaining, sharpness. I dropped the volume down to about 42 miles in week 20 to ensure my legs were fresh, for race day. So consistency is the foundation of this sub 3 plan. I followed a rigid weekly template so my body knew when to work and when to recover. Monday was always my rest day. You know, just try to take it off as much as I could. Wouldn't do anything, and was just really specific or intentional about making sure I didn't do anything. I needed to rest. All the rest of the days were work, so I needed at least one day of rest. But Tuesday was a quality day. This was usually a long tempo or marathon pace effort. And then Wednesday was my easy aerobic miles, usually zone 2 paired with, some F3 workouts, um, where, we would do calisthenic type exercises with body weight. And then Thursday was my speed work. So these were additional tempo runs. If Tuesday was long and steady, then Thursday was often shorter and faster. And then Friday was my easy recovery and a dedicated um, uh, like 30-minute mobility or F3 workout, depending on how I was feeling. And then Saturday, this was the long run. These often included progression finishes when the end of the easier, slower pace, I'd speed it up to go a lot more intense during the last half of the mileage. And then for Sunday, that was my easy aerobic miles to flush the legs and keep the weekly mileage high. So you can't just run every mile as fast as you can. You have to respect your zones. I used a mix of heart rate, pace, and RPEs, which is the rate of perceived exertion. So zone 1 was my, recovery was about 115 to 135 beats per minute, and paces ranged anywhere from 945 to 1030 miles, and then this should feel like, you're barely working. And then zone 2 was aerobic. This was about 135 to 150, and this was the bread and butter zone at 850 to about 930 per mile. Zone three, this was, around marathon pace is 150 to 160 beats per minute, and this is the goal pace initially starting out at 715 a mile and then progressing down to 650 by the end of the plan. And zone four threshold was about 160 to 170, and these are 625 to 650 mile intervals where you're working hard but staying controlled. And then zone five was my VO2 max, about 170 to 184 beats per minute. This is all out speed work, anywhere from 550 to 620 pace. Um, Typically, I did these on like track sessions just to build that raw speed. So if you want to know what it takes to run 252, look at week 17. This was a 65-mile peak week where I just kind of got after it. Tuesday was a 14-mile total, featuring 10 miles at race pace, 6:55 to 7-minute mile, and then Wednesday um, was an 8 mile at a 9-minute pace, and then Thursday was 12 400-meter repeats at about 550 to 6 mile pace, and Friday was a 6 mile at 10-minute pace. This was an easier one, and Saturday was the 20-mile confidence builder. I ran the first 10 miles easy at 9-minute pace and then hammered the last 10 miles at exactly 650 race pace. This mimics the fatigue you'll feel at the end of the marathon. So then to cap it off on Sunday, I did an 8 mile easy flush to cap off the week. So two of the things that made the difference outside of just running were F3 workouts and my nutrition. My F3 workouts were non-negotiable. I'm the leader of the region out in Northwest Houston, the Cypress area. We focus on high intensity body weight exercises to prevent any of that late race collapse that kept me mobile. And just kept me disciplined. For nutrition, I practiced taking gels every 45 miles during long runs, starting in week 5 to ensure my stomach could handle, 200 to 250 calories in an hour. But it was brutal. I had to make sure I watched what I ate, especially during the taper weeks. There's a lot of concerns that I had going into the race, but just kind of stuck to the plan and maintained my discipline. And I want to share this plan with you in full detail. I did create a downloadable PDF version on my website where you could take all the stress off of you and just go through each week, day by day. It'll give you, the pace that you're supposed to run at, what your heart rate should be, which should be in zone 2, zone 3, depending on the day, and then even nutrition tips. So like how you should eat, your last week of your taper, so you could have your body as best shape as possible leading up into the race. And it's not a secret. I do want to make it available for folks to download and purchase. So I highly recommend you head over to officialvictoryfitness.com and check it out. Just added it a couple days ago, but looking forward to seeing what you all think. I think it's highly worth the value, and you're going to get a lot out of it. Like I said, it got me to 252, 53 for my first marathon. I think my race or my pace before that, I did run a marathon just around my neighborhood, and it was about 4 hours plus. I think it was like 420 and some change, and I came a long ways, but want to show you that it is possible if you stick to a plan and just maintain discipline. Don't make any excuses. Get out there and follow a plan. You will see the work pay off. I had every intention of hitting the sub 3 goal, and I made it happen, but only works if you make it work. So stick to that plan. Don't make excuses, and just get after it. You got what it takes to run a sub 3. If I could do it, you definitely got what it takes. I came down from 257 pounds, and when I was racing, I dropped down to about 180. So to show you, it just requires a lot of discipline, effort, and commitment. But in this plan, I'm going to show you all the details on how I made that happen. And yeah, look to see some of you folks that are chasing that sub 3 also make it happen. So appreciate it. Add any comments in this thread so we could chat about it. If you have any goals that you're chasing, we'd love to hear about them. Let's go.